Cheers. Thank you for joining me today. The reason that you should watch this video is so that you can learn how to dominate at chess. So I'm going to get my handy dandy chessboard out here and make sure that you can see it. All right. So just for anyone who is new to chess, I wanted to talk about, well, first, actually, let's talk about the history of chess. Pretty much everyone that's watching my channel already, knows that so much of what we have been taught is an inversion of the truth. The history that we are taught is a fabrication, a lie, and that is the same when it comes to chess. We are told that chess was invented by humans, and the reality of the situation is that chess was invented long before humans were created, and it has been played by multiple species. Chess is a war in a board game, you can say, and it is one of the ways that other species and other souls, species inside of this reality and souls that are outside that aren't taking the shape of a species, they measure intelligence based on chess. They are impressed by, if you are good at chess, they're impressed by you. For most of them, humans in general are not very impressive. We are taught that we're, the most intelligent species and all of this great stuff, when in reality, like, all of the things that we are taught is an inversion of the truth, right? Like, we are not living on a giant spinning ball. We are not evolved from pawn scum. Like, thinking those things makes you a clown. It's not intelligence, right? And the same thing is with chess. Like, obviously, practicing tactics is a great way to get better at chess, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about particularly the opening. Opening is going to set the tone for the whole game, and the openings that we are given in the general population, I guess what I'm trying to say. The openings that we are taught are clown openings, right? Like, often you have the D4, E4, whatever, tossing your pawns out. Well, I'm playing from their side. I guess I'd be going forward on my side first, right? But anyways, tossing the pawns out into the middle of the board, taking up as much space as possible, even, bringing out your queen really early and just playing like a clown. And what I am going to show you today is the Inanian opening. Inanna, like my name, and then Ian, like Inanian. And first, let's start, though, with just briefly going through the pieces and how they move, what you can do with them. Obviously, we have our pawns, and they start off in the same line like you can see on your screen. And well, I guess I should actually back up and tell you first that white is the one that gets to move first, and your square on the right here is going to need to be white. So when you set up your chessboard, make sure that you have white on the right, and the white person who's playing white is going to move first. The pawn, like I was saying, on your first move, your pawn can either move 1 or 2 spaces, okay? And then after your first move, you can only move 1. It's just the first time that you move it, half of the first square, you can either move 1 or 2. And when you go up to, I want to make sure you can actually see. When you go up to actually, that's the wrong side. When you go up to actually, take a piece with your pawn, you have to take at a diagonal. So there, that is the information there. My pieces don't want to stay up today. Another thing about your pawns is called en passant, and that is basically if your opponent has their piece here and you try to move here, if they don't know about this, you can get away with it, and it can, give you a great advantage in the game. It can actually be what wins you the game. But if they know about this move, then they're going to defend against it. So basically, if they have theirs here and you try to move your pawn forward 2, they can actually take as if you only moved forward 1 and take your piece off the board. Like, you can't just jump past their pieces. It's like, no, back up, go back to start, and don't collect any money, go to jail, whatever they say in Monopoly. But anyways, so that is the pawns. And the other special thing about your pawn is that if you can make it all the way to the other side, you can actually trade up for a rook, a knight, a bishop, or a queen. And a lot of people will automatically level up to a queen, but sometimes it's funner. It's not really a good word, is it? More fun to actually get another rook, and kind of a little bit like, you don't even deserve me getting another queen. I'm going to dominate you with a rook. But that's another story for another day. So let's move on to your rook. We have in the corners, and they are able to move in vertical or horizontal across the board. You can go all the way across until you hit or take another piece off, or hit the other side. And the most powerful positions for your rooks is connected. So when they are on the same line where they can protect each other, this is one of the most powerful positions, but even more so is when they are on a line together going this way. So that is your rooks. All right. Your knight here is the next piece in line, and they move. I'm just trying to make sure that you can see here. They can either move 2 up like this and over to the right, or 2 up and over to the left. So if you were in the middle of the board like this, you could either go, this way, you could go this way, you could go this way, you could go this way. So there's multiple places that you can go. And the fun thing about the knight is you can, jump around in different places. And especially when you can get a fork, meaning like your 2, let's just say that the king and the queen are like this, and you can get your knight in like this to where, you are checking the king and they have to move the king. So once they move that, then you can take the queen. So a knight fork is one of like the funnest moves that you can do as well, in my opinion. Next, we have our bishop. The bishop I often refer to as my guns. This is a game of war, and like my first moves in the game are trying to get my bishops into place so that they are firing for the whole game, basically. So your bishop can go at a diagonal, diagonal this way, then the turn this way, and then, just go in diagonals all across the board. And you can go as far as the length of the board or until you take another piece. Just like the rook can go all the way either way. The next is your queen. When you're setting up your board, you're going to make sure that your queen is on the same color square that you are. So you can see, hopefully, that this white queen is on a white square. This black queen is on a black square. Now, the queen is a kind of combination of your rook and your bishop in that she can move either way, forwards, backwards, side to side, or diagonals in as many squares as you need to take up or whatever. And then we have the king, which is, your prized possession in this game. The object of the game is to checkmate the other person's king. Hopefully you checkmate them before they checkmate you, or else, you lose. And a checkmate means that your king doesn't have anywhere else to go. Like you're backed into a corner. It's like they got the sword to your throat. There's nowhere to go. Like you're done for. Your king can move in any direction, but can only move one square. So it's very limiting, and you want to make sure that you don't, get backed into a corner or pushed onto the sides where you can get checkmated. The special move with the king is called a castle, and that is, let's just move this out of the way, between your king and your rook, which you can go on either side. So a king side castle, your king goes over 2 spaces to the right, and your rook goes immediately to the left. Or if you wanted to do a queen side, again, your king moves 2 squares. We're going to the left 2 squares, and then the rook is going to the right. Okay, so this move can obviously be really beneficial. A lot of people will castle towards the beginning of the game. I personally like to wait until the end, or until it's more of an advantage point for me. And I often like to, instead of castling, pull the king up a space and use the king as defense. So castling at the beginning is definitely not what I recommend. It's also really fun, like if they have all of their pieces on one side and they get ready for an attack over here, then you can castle on the opposite side. It's like, almost had me, didn't you? Then you didn't. Okay, so those are your pieces. And now, obviously, we have the beginning set up. Now, when you're playing the Inanian opening, you are going to not only change what you do based on what color you are playing, but also based on what your opponent is doing. So when I am playing as white, I will start off with my queen side pawn here in front of the knight moving forward, because my next move is going to bring the bishop here. Now, depending on what they do, like usually they will throw out their pawns here, either one. If they just focus on setting up their own little opening here, usually like that. Okay, so they actually haven't really done any attacks on me trying to set this up, right? So we can get to a point where our pieces are set up. Like, I'm just doing this to show you what the Inanian opening actually looks like. So your pieces are going to be here. You have your bishops in these positions to where they are shooting down these lines the entire game, okay? And one false move, and these people have moved their pawn up, and you're taking their rooks. Like, it can be really fun, especially when you are playing clowns. Like, and all of humans have been taught to play like clowns. So even if you are like, you get on the chess app and you start as like 1,000 player, you can dominate 1400s by using a different opening that they're not used to. Especially when you're playing humans, right? Humans make mistakes. So even if they are grandmaster level, if you are playing this opening that they're not expecting and you play perfectly, you can completely dominate them. So this is the opening that you want to basically get into. If they do come in, I'll show you in just a little bit in my own game some of the variants. But you're going to get all your pieces basically in this position. Sometimes I'll leave this line open so that the queen can come down here. You can often come down here and check the king. But after you get your pieces in this general location, like the bishops are the most important, to get them in this position as quickly as possible. It's like you're going into a battle, and it's like pull your guns as fast as you can, because that's just the smart thing to do when you're going to war. It's like, don't keep your gun in your pocket until the end of the battle. So basically, I'm going to, from this point, start to take my knights and jump. Obviously, I'm not going to jump here because the pawn will just take me, but I'm saying you're going to just start jumping your knights around. And even if you will jump up and then jump back, it's still, you'll cause different weaknesses in their pawn structure, in their pieces, causing them to move. So you keep your basic pawn structure. You don't really want to push all your pieces out into the middle like everybody else, like, oh, you got to control the center. It's like, my opening isn't about controlling the center. My opening is about getting ready for war. So we got our guns in place, and now we have our knights. Often I will, sacrifice my knight, and, well, I mean, I guess if they didn't have the pawns here in the way, maybe that's not there. If I jump here, their knight will take me, and then I will take with my bishop. So now our knights are off the board. And then the next move, maybe they move their bishop here to attack me. Well, that wouldn't be. I was going to say, if they move their bishop here to attack me, then we have a different issue. But depending on whatever the move that they make, I'm just going to pull my gun back here. So I'm constantly going out, taking their pieces, and then moving my piece right back to here where it is safe. So it's like just sniping back and forth. And I'll show you one of the games that I just totally dominated this person right from the beginning. It can be really, really fun. So if you are ready to improve your chess game and dominate even grandmasters, then I would highly suggest that you start to use this opening, use these tactics that I'm teaching. Aim your bishops. Rule number 2 of Inanian chess. So let me start with rule number 1 is don't be a chump, okay? Double check, triple check your moves so that you aren't losing the game over a stupid mistake. Like, chess is a game of perfection, and if you can play a perfect game, then you can dominate anybody. If you have 2 players that are both playing a perfect game, it's going to end in a draw. It's just not going to have a winner because you both played it perfectly. But when you're playing humans, the likelihood of them making a mistake is very high. So anyways, yes, this is the opening. And the first rule, again, was don't be a chump. Double, triple check your moves. The second rule is to play the specific variant for the moves that your opponent makes. So you're not always going to be able to perfectly one-for-one move get into these positions. Sometimes, I guess I just need to set up the board again here. Okay. Whoops. All right. Okay, so let's say if I move here and they move here and bring their queen down to here, which is often what they'll do. Often they're going to try to come down here and aim their queen and their bishop at this one square so that they can checkmate you in 3 or 4, like 1, 2, 3 moves, right? 4 moves. Yeah. And it's really easily defeated, but you can't just keep developing like you would normally if they're attacking you. So in this case, if they do bring their queen out here, then I would move my pawn up to attack the queen. And also it puts me in place to develop anyway, so it's not really hurting. And then often they will bring their queen here to try to threaten your rook, which is really vulnerable because there's nothing that can protect it in this position. So I will move my knight out to here to protect, and then, finish depending on whatever moves that they do. So you're going to have to change your gameplay depending on what they do, obviously. And rule number 2 is to play the correct variant of the Inanian opening, depending on your opponent's moves. And rule number 3 is to aim your bishops, connect your rooks, and to threaten with your knights. You jump around with your knights. So as fast as you can get these bishops into place, and even connecting your rooks too, right? Like that I was saying at the beginning, they're more powerful when they are protecting each other. So getting the king and the queen out of the way and allowing them to be together is something that you're going to want to do as well. And that is pretty much the rules of Inanian chess. This is just a 101 video, and I wanted to go through some of my games with you. Shout out to everybody in the live chat. Let me see what is going on. Hey, Aaron, how's it going? Chris is here. KG Jr. is here. Bobby's here. Daniel's here. Flat Earth Super Being is here. Yay. Aaron is pointing out the Masonic Mason reveals flat Earth, dual pyramids, and the two suns. Yeah, I'm not going to get into flat Earth right now, but I did want to mention about the Masons and how they have, the chess board. Most people say checkerboard, but it's not a checkerboard. It's chess because they know how important chess is and how, it's not just humans. It's not just gaining human respect that you will accomplish by dominating at chess, but you will actually gain the respect of other species as well. So I wanted to get into my game here, one of this really fun game that I just played. All right, so I am starting off as white. Let me try to... There we go. First move, like usual, move number 1. They start off with a clown move, like usual, throwing out their pieces, getting ready. Well, okay, let me just back up for 1 second. In the Inanian opening, eventually we do put a pawn up here to give room for the knight, but they're making a clown move because, if you're in a war and you dilly-dally on pulling your guns, it's like, you're a clown. I don't know what to tell you. All right, so then I move here. They move up here. I move there. Then we have them coming down here. I'm just going to keep developing because they're not really doing anything. They castle on this side. Then I move up here finally, right? Like I already have my guns pulled, and then I finally make the move that they made all the way at the beginning. And like I was saying before, this opens up this line. I mean, the king has castled, obviously, but the queen has a clean line over here. And now that you've castled, it's like castling can be a benefit, but it's also that their king is now stuck in this square, right? Like there's only 2 squares right now for their king to move. They're going to need to move other pieces out of the way, or else, if I can get in here and cause a quick checkmate, then they're screwed. So castling early really is not always beneficial like that. So now they move their knight up here, and I continue to develop. Then they move their knight here, and I continue to develop. I move this knight over first so I can keep this line open. I don't always do this, but, it's, yeah. So now they move this knight in here. Classic move. I just defend by pushing this up. If they want to jump in here, they're going to be taken. If they want to jump in here, they're going to sacrifice their knight for a pawn, which, okay, then it's just going to bring my queen out here and onto this line to cause problems for you. So anyways, now they jump their knight back because they're afraid. And I bring my knight up here. One of the things that I do often, well, not in this case, but like I was saying, is I will try to trade out my knights and get them off the board. My knights, I jump around and try to cause weaknesses, and I basically will use them it's just like, thank you for your sacrifice, for a positional advantage, to take a bishop off the board, anything that I can really. Okay, so now they take two squares up with their knight. Is this better? That might be better. Okay. Or 2 squares up with their pawn to threaten my knight. I'm sorry about that. And like I said, I will sacrifice my knight to take the bishop off the board. Like you're in a gunfight and now you're down a gun. So... all right, and they make the obvious move of taking my piece off the board. Now I move here, And one of the things, you know, I'm just going to move in here. You can see that this is happening. This is one of the common things that I'll do as well. Just jump right in front of their thing and we'll see what they do. If they try to threaten me, like, you know, obviously they are, yeah, sorry about that. I kind of moved out of position there, but then they take me here. Then I take them here. Then they move up here to threaten me. And I bring my queen down here onto this line. I really like that line being open. They bring their pawn up to threaten me. How dare they? I just step forward. Now, here they make a really big mistake. I don't know if you can see what's going on. Hopefully, let me just tilt the board here so you can see. But my bishop is lining down this line here. My queen is right here. And the only thing stopping me is this pawn right here. And you know what they do? They move it out of the way from me. Isn't that so nice? And then I checkmate. That was fun. That was a really fun game. So as you can see with this bishop, with these bishops shooting down the whole time, like it really opens up for really fun checkmates like that. I didn't start off the game by throwing out my pawns into the front and bringing out my queen like all the way at the beginning. If you are playing me and you try to do this, you know, bishop queen attack right from the beginning, if you disrespect me by trying to scholars mate me, I am coming after your queen. And if I don't take her, I'm going to at least chase her back into her little square because that's not okay. Anyways, let us not, I'm having some issues today. Okay. The plain truth says, depends what level you're playing against, Inanna. I have seen extremely high-ranking players make completely chump moves. Like, it doesn't really matter what level you are playing. If you play a perfect game and use this opening, then you're going to dominate anybody. It really doesn't matter. Thank you, Aaron. That's really nice. Hey Sage, how's it going? Okay, I'm going to show you another game I have here. That was really fun. And this is just one example of how, come on, get off my screen, of how you can people just make mistakes. If you're playing a human, they're bound to make mistakes. So if you double, triple check your moves and play perfectly, then you can beat anybody. Okay, so as you can see, this person is doing their first move was this classic move. They have their queen protecting it, and they push all the way forward. So they're throwing out all their pawns into the middle, and I'm going to let them do it. I continue over here, and then they come and protect their piece, which I wasn't going to take anyways. I bring my bishop into play. They bring their pawn out. I bring my pawn here finally to stop them from going any further. Then they bring their knight out here. I bring mine in here. You know, there's this beautiful little spot for me to jump with my knight. So I'm always looking for these types of things. And even if I, like I said, don't take a piece, it's like I'm going to be jumping around and causing issues and hopefully getting a fork. If you can fork two of their pieces, that's really the exciting part about the knights. Okay, so they bring their knight out. Then I bring mine up here. And they bring their queen down. I'm like, okay, let's duel it out. I mean, like, I have this protecting it, I have this protecting, and you know, okay, sacrifice your queen. So I just move this piece over here. One of the things I like to do is make sure that these are in line. So if they start to come over here, I can just lock out the sides and not let them push forwards. So there's that. And then move waster alert. Yeah. So they move their queen back here. And then I just take their knight because I want to get it off the board. Then they take with their queen. I move my pawn up a piece, or a square, I guess. Then they move their knight in here. And I just move my pawn up to threaten them back. Then they jump back like a scaredy cat. Then I move my knight into play. They bring their bishop down here. I start to trade out pieces, right? Like you can jump around all day, but eventually you're going to have to start trading down pieces. And they take my piece off the board. I move up to threaten their bishop, get out of here. They move it down here. Now I have this cute little spot for my knight jump in over here. And they bring this down here. And now I'm threatening the queen. And they move their queen here. The pawn's protecting, so it's not really an issue there. So I move my queen here. A lot of times you're going to want to, be really careful about having your king and your queen on the same line, because if they, if they move their queen here, it's like you can't move your queen out of the way, or else your king is checked, right? So if they're here, you're not allowed to move your queen out of the way. So you're in a predicament. If you had a knight or something, you could jump in front or whatever, then you can block that. But, you're going to be really cautious about this either way, if they're this way or this way. And that's not just with these two pieces. Obviously, it's with any of your pieces that can be, I often like to trap their pieces in. If they have something in front of the king and you put your queen here, it's like they can't move this piece now. So it's like they're stuck. So you might want to put positional advantage to stick this queen here, and obviously not if these are here. Sorry, I'm not trying to if your piece is here, then that piece can't move. So it can definitely be used to your advantage, but also you want to make sure that you don't get trapped in that spot because, for obvious reasons. Okay, so let me try to put this back as it was before. Then we had this here and this here. Okay, so that move was that I moved here into play. They actually move here to threaten my knight, which was a really silly move, because now this square is not being like before. If I were to have jumped my knight in here, the queen could just take my piece, right? But now, since they've moved their pawn up here to threaten my knight, now I can jump in here and not be, this piece can only move this way, so they can't take me. So now they have to move their king out of the way. And what they do is they move their king towards me so that they can take me if I don't move, and I instead just take their bishop out. Then they take me with, wow, I'm really having a struggle bus today. Then they take me with their pawn, which is obviously the best move to make to get the knight out of there. I'm sorry, some people get offended when you call it a horse, even though it's literally shaped like a horse. Anyways, so now my queen is moved to a place where I am threatening the king, right? And so the king has to move. King moves there. Now I move this pawn up to threaten the queen, right? It's still being protected by my rook. So if the queen takes it, then the queen's toast. And then they move their queen here. And as you can see, that queen is not being protected by anything. And obviously I went and took this, blasted her off into nowhere, and then they resigned the game. So a lot of these types of, I love this opening. There's just no other opening that I could see myself using because of so many games that I have just completely dominated people, having my bishops in these lines and using the technique where I just jump my knights around and try to cause weaknesses and, sacrifice the knights for other pieces to get them off of the board. They are taught for the most part basically to throw away their bishop instead. Like they'll to take my knight off the board, they'll throw away their bishop. It's like for me, I'm gonna throw away my knight to take your bishop off. So I have a different mentality when it comes to that, because these are your guns. Like, you're gonna go to a gunfight without your guns. That's really not a wise decision. All right, so oh, my pieces are on the floor. Let me check out the chat really quick here. I think they solved chess a few years ago. I'm not sure what you mean by solving chess, but even species that are not humans play chess, and think that it is impressive when we can dominate. Okay. Sage, are you asking why would they hold back in chess? Or I think you might be talking about something else. All right. Let me just focus on what I'm doing, and you guys can talk about your yeah. Akshar says, despite things, statistics seem to favor the white player due to the first move. Well, it's funny that you say that. I'm about to show you some of my games with me playing black and dominating. So, yes, I do agree. But you also have to consider the fact that when, whoever plays more perfect is going to win regardless of what color really that they start off on. So, all right. That's okay. Aaron, sorry, I'm like distracted. Okay. So I already showed you that one. Here is, let me see if there's another white game, and then we're going to go to the, oh, this was the funny game. Okay. Let me just show you this game really fast, because this is what you can really do when you have chumps. Okay, so my first move, again, same moves. They move their knight here. Is it easier like this? I don't know. I'm not really sure what's easiest for you guys to see. All right, so then I move here. They are just wasting moves. Then they move there. I load my gun. Then they toss this one out. You see what I see, right? You see what they just did. Hopefully, like, that is a clown move. All right. So obviously, I shoot down this line and take out their rook. Okay. And their next move is to toss out their pawn in front of the king. Then I move the one in front of my king out one so that I can bring my queen out to help with this bishop. Oftentimes there's obviously multiple variants, but you could either, move your queen as quickly as possible to the same line on that same side as the bishop. But in this case, I decided to go the opposite way. So Those are just two variants. So now, their mentality is do all of this movement to try to get my piece out. Like, so they're going to be just kind of clustering themselves around to try to get me out. And my goal is to move my queen into a place where I can help to protect and defend the bishop. So, maybe I can get it back safely home, right? All right, so the next move that I make is actually, did I miss one of their moves? No. So they moved their pawn out here, and then I come down here to check the king with my queen. Then the king actually moves up one. And of course, I slide in here and take this pawn off the board, checking the king again, right? Then they move here, which is kind of silly because I just check and take that again, right? Move forward one. And then they move back here in line with the queen. And then, of course, I take their knight and check them again. The next move, if they move here, which they're going to have to, right? I'm going to take their queen, even though their rook is going to take me next. It's like I am literally sweeping all of their pieces off the board. So when you have an advantage like this, sacrifice your queen to take their queen off the board, if that is what it comes down to. Yeah. Okay. I don't. All right. So I think that was the other white game that I saved. Now let's show some games playing on black. Okay, so this is their first move here. You can pretty much tell they're going to try to bring their queen out when they when they do this. So their move is to move their queen here. One of the really often openings that you'll see is actually moving the pawn in front of the king forward and then moving their queen here, moving their bishop here to attack down on this square right in front of the king for an early checkmate. Now, you're going to have your pieces in line by this time, right? 1, 2, 3. So your third move to defeat this is actually going to be to move your knight right here. And now your knight and your bishop are both coming down on this line. So depending on what they do, a lot of times they'll actually bring their knight out on either side. You can bring your bishop here, and now you are threatening the queen, and you're protected by this knight. I've even seen the biggest clown move in this position that you could do is move your pawn up one to threaten my knight, to get my knight out of the way. And then I'm going to come over here and take your queen and show you why you should not bring your queen out this early. That is not good. If you want to protect your queen, you need to keep her safe. Like, keep her safe back here until it's time to bring her out. Don't try to do these quick checkmates on people that have been around the block more than once. It's like, once you have been owned by this move at once, if you don't learn your lesson, well, I mean, I guess wear those clown shoes with pride. All right. So anyways, back to the game. So they moved here, I move here. And since they are threatening me, bringing my bishop here is just gonna make me lose my bishop and put their queen right here to threaten my rook. So we are moving our knight out here to protect this space. They bring their bishop here to threaten, and usually when they bring their pieces here, move my pawn up, but in this case, instead, I actually continue to develop and move this bishop into place to protect this knight. So basically, if they take the knight, then I'm going to be taking like with this. And then since my pawn here is protecting as well, I'm going to be threatening the queen. So good luck with that. Here they go. They actually did. They took this off the board. And then I take their bishop. And now, like I was saying, we have our pawn protecting the bishop so they can't take it. They instead decide to move down here. And if you can't see, they have left this wide open. So I come down here to try to cause some chaos. And then they move their knight out here, which really doesn't do much for them. I continue forward and take their piece off of the board. Really having a struggle bus today. Okay. They move here, which is protected by the queen and blocks my piece in, right? So now what I'm going to do, like I was saying earlier, is try to get the queen on this line. So I bring my queen over here. They actually bring their knight here to threaten my bishop. And I bring this in line. I'm just going to let my bishop be sacrificed to get my queen in this position in order for the rest of the game. So yeah, they take this here, and now they have their knight there in the corner. And that is a good spot for him. So we're going to push up now and start to develop the other side, right? Usually, well, not usually, I mean, the Inanian opening is try to get your bishops into place as quick as possible. But as you can see with this game, like I've had to do other things in order to even get to this part. This is move 18, and I'm now just, well, 18 between both of us, right? The move 18 of the game, and now I'm just finally getting my bishop into place, whereas other games I get it done as soon as possible. So anyways, I move up to threaten the queen, and the queen then moves right here. Now I move my bishop into place, and they move their knight over here. I move my knight here to threaten the queen. As soon as they come out, as soon as you can get into a place where you can start to, crush their queen, then attack them, then go after it. Now you can see they made a move to where my queen is right in line with them. And like I was saying earlier, once you have the advantage, then you can swap out your queen, like get their queen off of the board as quick as possible. So then they take me here. Then I develop more. I want to get my king off this back line. I am not looking to castle, but once I can pull the king up, then my rooks are connected. Then they jump out here. Then I push up my piece here because often they like to try to jump in here and then try to jump here. And if they jumped here, then they would be forking my king on this side and then the rook on this side, right? So I would be forced to move my king either way, whatever, and lose my rook. So in order to prevent this from happening, I move my pawn up one. Now they move this pawn up one. I move this pawn up one, continue the regular development. And now my king has two options to move into. Then they move this forward. Then I move this forward. And now they made a mistake, and I can take their knight and check the king. And you see, I'm checking the king and also threatening the rook. So they move this, and I come and take their piece. Fun times. Now they jump over here with their knight to try to come and play. I am moving over here. As you can see, this little loner guy by himself is ready to be chomped by my knight. They take this piece here. And I take this piece here. Once they have pieces on your side, if they get a pass pawn, then you're going to have to focus all like your pieces on either defending or getting over there to try to make sure that they don't get a queen or whatever they're going to try to level up their pawn for. So making sure there's none of that. We have this bishop coming down here to threaten me, and I'm going to just take it off the board and threaten the king. Then they take me with their knight. Then I actually jump in here with this one, because the next move, I can jump here and check the king, take this off. It's always fun when you can check and take a piece or fork with the knight, of course. But, even with the queen, a lot of times if you can come up on this line and check, and then like if they have a hanging pawn, you can make like a 7 and then check them and then come and take the piece as well. So you always want to make sure that you're looking for, 7s and forks in different ways that you can, trap their pieces. So here I've moved and taken this piece and checked the king. So they move here. And then I move down here. I'm going to, get ready to come and bounce around and take this piece. They jump down here. And if you want to obviously see what your opponent is going to do, and their knight, if they jump here, it is an unprotected pawn, right? So what I chose to do, also here is unprotected as well. I guess it's not unprotected because that knight's there. But moving here with my king is going to connect my rooks on this back line and also protect. If the knight jumps here, I could take him. If the knight jumps here, I could take him with my king. And my pawn structure isn't getting moved around or anything. Like, I'm using my king for defense. A lot of people don't want to do that. I mean, probably more noobs don't want to do that. People that are new want to be more protective with their king, but your king can be like an asset for defense. So definitely utilize your king. So then they jump up here with that. And I am focused on bringing my rook into play here. They move that there to threaten my knight. And I zoom down here to check them. They move over here to threaten my knight, and I move right here to check them. Then they move over one space. I connect my rooks on this line. They move forward one. I take their piece, chomp, chomp, chomp. They move down here. I move down here to check them again. They move up here. I move up here to check them again. They move here again. I move up one with my pawn here because I'm going to try to move this piece up here, not put too much pressure on it or else it'll fly off. Okay. So I move here and they take the piece there. And I come up with my rook. They move forward with their king. And the last move of the game is me taking their pawn into checkmate. Fun times. All right. I'm going to show you one or two more games and then see what's going on in the chat. So, hopefully you guys are seeing how this opening can be really beneficial, and not just the opening, but also tactically using your knights to jump around, to cause issues, to cause weaknesses, and to swap out, the other pieces for your knights. they're trained to throw away their bishops, and I am more disposing with my knights rather than the bishops. All right. Okay, so let us start the next game. We have classic move here. And they bring out their knight to protect their next pawn. Oh, I'm surprised they actually didn't bring their pawn out. Second, they usually do. Okay, then I move here. Then there's that. I got my guns in place. Look at that. They're still over here wasting moves. All right. Now, I'll often let them do what they're going to do. They're going to try to start munching through my pieces. That's not where that went. Sorry about that. They're going to start munching through my pieces as I just continue to move my knight because I'm focused on my attack and, yeah. So they'll often come here and then I will jump. Well, it'd actually be on the other side. Then I will jump with my piece into that position that they have, left open and continue on with my aggressive attack rather than sitting here and waiting. And then when they're actually, a threat, then I'll take them out of the way. But like I was saying before, you also want to make sure that they're not just camping in your space over here because then they can, trade out for one of the bigger pieces or just cause a constant headache, right? So this person is here. My pieces are here. This guy is here. Okay, so now this bishop came over here. And I am pushing them out with this piece. Instead, they want to swap out. All right. Threw away your gun pretty early. That's fine by me. I take with the queen. Then they take here. And I take with the queen. Then they bring their bishop out to there. I bring my other knight into play. As you can see, this spot right here is perfect for my knight to jump into. That's where I'm headed. They castle on this side. Then I jump my knight into play. They want to trade out. I take with my bishop. They bring this down. And there is an example of me reloading, right? Go out, then come back in so that your gun is protected. Then they move this up one. I move my piece here. And they decide to come down and trade out, which is fine by me. We'll get them. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not actually what I did. That's funny. I actually decided to move up here, and that's always really fun. Like I was saying, when they castle on one side or when they get all their pieces on one side for the attack, and then you'll castle on the other side, like basically they do all this work to try to move all their pieces around, and then at the last second, move out of the way. This is another thing that I'll do. Like when I get into their corner, if I come down and I take their piece, then they start to try to shuffle their pieces around to threaten my bishop to get it out of their space. And then I will continue doing what I'm doing. And then at the last second, they've wasted all these moves to move 3 or 4 pieces around to try to get my bishop. And then at the last second, I'll scooch it out of the way, and they just did all that for nothing. So it can be really fun. So anyways, yeah, instead of trading out, I went over here, which is obvious because their queen is protecting that. Now they move back up here to threaten my queen, and I move back one to keep protecting these pawns. You're going to have to remember that as you advance in the game, and as your your main pieces, your bishop, your knight, your rooks, your queen, you're going to start moving around, and eventually you're going to have these pawns. Like, you can play with this opening, you can play like almost the whole game and still have like a whole bunch of your pawns still in the same exact position. So you have pawns like in the back like this that no longer have, maybe the rook is over here on this line or something, the pawn is left vulnerable. So you're going to make, usually I use my king to try to protect these vulnerable pawns, but it's something that you have to keep your eye on, because as you move all your pieces away, then they don't have any protection. So anyways, I move here to do that. Then they move their rook behind their queen. This is obviously another really powerful position to be in, to have your queen really protecting anything. And, we have this line that's really powerful here. We have this line that is powerful here as well. So yes. Now I am going to castle on this side. So my king comes over 2, and the rook comes right behind my queen. So now we have this whole lineup going down here. And they decide to bring their knight in here. And I move my queen here so that I am not taken by their piece. And then they move their queen here. I move my rook up here to threaten their knight and see if they'll do anything, right? They actually decide to pull their rook up 1 square. So I push my pawn up over here. I actually push it up twice. So now there's nothing, they're not threatening anything down over here. They throw their knight back here. I push up this pawn to threaten this bishop here. And then they move down 1. I move up 1 and start to threaten their knight. They take my bishop and start to threaten my queen. I just take their bishop off the board. Don't point a gun at me. Okay, then they move their knight here, and where did this piece go? Oh, that was really confusing. I'm like, what just happened? So this piece was here, and then my next move after I threaten their knight is to take this piece. I know that there's nothing protecting it, but they've castled on this side, and now if I can take their pawns out of the way, I'm going to create a weakness over there and expose their king. So I took that piece. They took me back. Now their king is exposed, and I can pull my rook over and check the king. The king moves here. I move back down here, connecting my rooks again. Now they move over here, threatening my rook, but my rook is protected by this one. So if they take me out, then I'm just going to replace it and be right back where I was at anyways. So instead, I move my queen up here and get ready for my next move, which you'll see in a second. So they do end up coming down here, and I trade off their pieces, and they move here. They obviously don't see where I'm going, and I move up here to the back, and they move here, which is a wise decision, right? Because now their knight is protecting this spot, which is where my queen is going. And the problem here, though, is that they have jumped their knight right in the line of fire. My gun. Oops. So we'll just take that off the board. And then they take me with their queen, but there's nothing protecting this square. So checkmate. Fun. All right, I wanted to show you one more, and I'm playing, it's kind of interesting that all of these happen to be like me playing black, so yeah. The grandmasters that we are, given to aspire to be like, well, tactically they are gifted, but as far as, they are always doing these clown openings that are playing along with the programming to get humans to go along with chump chess, right? To play anything other than the Inanian opening. Like that's what they're promoting. And then you have these two inverted clowns that are, labeled as grandmasters playing clown chess against each other, putting on this, show for humans and not showing us these real, the real opening that you should be using. Get your guns as fast as possible. Like that's the most obvious thing in war. Okay, so here we go again. We have another move throwing out the pawn. Now we have the queen coming down, which silly move. Okay, there we go. I was wondering why I was feeling so off. Okay, and now they bring their knight out here. I bring this piece up, right? I'm deviating from the normal Inanian opening because of what they are doing. Now, if the knight was on this side, I might let them, come in here. But since the knight is on this side, often I will push this forward because this space is really vulnerable, especially when they have their queen here. So if they jump in here, then they are attacking this square, and then their queen can come in right here and checkmate me. So you're going to have to respond, and by just simply pushing this pawn up right here, you can prevent them from coming in and doing that. So I deviate from the normal, and then they bring their bishop down here. I bring my knight up here, right? Because this is firing down this line with this protecting it. I'm firing at their queen. And what do they do? Oh, what a clown. Clown, clown, clown. Okay. Bye-bye. All right. And then they take my piece off the board. I send my knight in here. They move forward. Somebody's also talking about me playing chess. I move forward here. They send their knight forward, and then what's happening right now? That was really confusing for a second. Okay. So they jump their knight here, and then the next move that I make is actually coming down here. Their knight is unprotected. They jump their knight here. I send my knight in here. Then they move their king over one. I move my pawn up one. I'm going to get ready to bring my gun into play finally. Then they move their knight over here. I say, okay, let's just get these off of the board. Oops. Then he takes me with his knight. Then I bring my gun into play. They bring their piece up. I bring my piece up. They bring their bishop down, threatening my king. And I actually push this up. It's being protected by my knight. And now it's threatening them. So they back off. And then I take this piece. They take back. Then I swipe in with my bishop. They move up here. I move up over here to threaten their bishop. Then they back up into this corner. Then I finally, I finally castle over here. And then they push up this pawn. I jump over here into play. They try to threaten my bishop. And then I move back one. Now I'm hoping to defend the queen as well. Now they bring their bishop out here. I simply move my pawn up to threaten their bishop. Then they make a silly move, which is moving their bishop right here. And this pawn that was being protected by the rook gets chomped. And I'm now checking the king. So the king moves over here. I move in here.
I want you to write down your website.
Okay.
You do.
Sure.
I want to see it.
Well, I'm actually on all like Facebook.
Yeah, right. All there.
Inanna Snow.
That's so awesome.
And my YouTube is Queen Inanna Snow. But I'm Inanna Snow on like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and everything. So
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
You should be on.
Oh, thank you. Okay. What was I? Okay. So anyways, I move here and I'm obviously threatening to take this, this rook here. So the best move for them would be to move their king out of the way, connecting their rooks here. Now I can't take their rook without losing my queen. So instead I take this unprotected pawn, just chomping away at their pieces. Then they come down here and try to threaten my rook, but my rook is not only protected by this rook over here, but I also have this knight protecting it as well. So, yeah, I move my king up to protect this pawn here. They move their bishop there and check my king. So I move here. I'm still protecting the pieces, and now I can move this rook out from having to protect this pawn. So they bring their rook here to threaten me, and I just slide over one. Now, remember I was telling you earlier how you can pin a piece, right? Like this knight now is pinned here. They can't move until they move their king out of the way, or else you can't move your piece if it's blocking a check. So they have to move their king before they can. So I'm just going to stay there so that they can't use that piece. Now they decide to come up here. So I decide to jump over here. If I go here, right, we got a check situation going on. So that's what I'm going for. They take my piece. Sounds good. We're going over here to check your king. Now they move forward to come closer, and I jump over here, take their pawn, and check them again. Then they move over here towards my queen, and I jump in here and check them again. Then they move over here to try to threaten my knight again. And guess what happens? Besides for me jumping in here and taking their bishop. So that was really fun. That was like 2 pieces in a row. Jump here, check the king, jump here, take and check the king, jump here, check the king, jump here, take, and it's a fun time. So the next thing that they did was take this piece, and I move over here to make sure that this, pawn doesn't continue forward. They move here. I take their pawn off the board. They move here. I move down 1 and check the king. Now, as soon as the king moves, they move over here to take this rook, leaving this pawn undefended. So we're going to come over here, take that off the board. And, now we have a situation to where this piece is undefended. So I would obviously want to take this one first and this one second, right? Because if you take this one, then their knight is just going to take you. So, yeah, they actually end up jumping in here to threaten my king. And so I take their piece and replace it with my own. Then they drive this down and unconnect their rooks, taking my pawn or my knight off the board. And so what I do is move up here and check the king. And you'll notice that I'm right in line to take this rook on the next turn. So they actually move here, which is kind of funny because when I move here, I end up checking them again, right? Then they move here. I come up here and take their other pawn. They move over here and threaten my queen. Another thing you want to make sure that you watch out for is you don't want to have a stalemate situation where like you haven't checkmated the king, but you haven't given him a space to move. So it's like you'll literally lose the game. You can end up with your queen and your rooks in a position to where you're trying to like ladder the king, and if you don't give him enough space to move in doing so, you can literally lose the game. It's gonna be a sad day if that happens for you. Okay, so they moved their rook here to threaten my queen. And I move here and check the king and also threaten the rook. So that's one of my favorite things, right? You want to check them and then also take in the next move. So you're trying to always keep looking for these. So now they move here to block. And I move my bishop here to check, right? Like now they have to deal with this, and they can't take my queen because they're dealing with this other attack. So then they move down 1, and I move up here to check them again. They move right here. Oh, you can't even see that, can you? They move right there, and finally I move here and checkmate them. So that is just a few games, a few examples of how this opening can dominate. These aren't like all lower level players either. Like, I mean, the chess app, you don't choose who you play. So you'll get people that are lower ranked than you or higher ranked than you. And I've seen this opening turn even like 1400s, like I was saying before, the chess app starts at like 1,000. So 1300 and 1400, they've won quite a few games, right? But this opening can literally turn them into chumps. So if you want to improve your chess game and dominate at chess, then you need to implement these rules. You need to start to pull your bishops, get them in position first, and actually not play chump chess like they have taught the majority of humans to do. So, yes. Let me see what's going on in the chat. what time tea break is, Queen? Anyways, I'm not sure what you're talking about there, buddy. Okay. So I will be doing chump chess, yes. In the future, we'll do a chess 102, but for now, like just implementing what I have shown you is going to significantly increase your gameplay, and just make sure you remember the 3 rules, right? 1, don't be a chump. Double, triple check your moves. Like, is this move going to be a clown move, or is it going to help me win? Because if you play a perfect game, you can literally beat anybody, okay? That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, playing the correct Inanian opening variant based on what your opponent does. And 3, aim at your bishops, connect your rooks, and attack with your knights. It's very, very simple, and just try it, okay? Try it and see how good your game actually can get, and have fun dominating people. All right. Akshar says, if this is just practice, can't wait for the tournament. Yes. Akshar is talking about having a chess tournament, and during the Golden Age specifically, I definitely want to make sure that chess is heavily promoted, you know, having chess parks and teaching kids how to play chess. Like, it looks like I'm kind of glitching a little bit, so hopefully not. But really focusing on chess and bringing out the intelligence in humanity, rather than the society that we have now that focuses on bringing out the clownery, being the worst humans possible. But in the Golden Age, we want to flip that around. Pavel says, hey, hello, I live in the UK. Thanks for joining, everybody. I appreciate that. I'm actually probably going to get off of here because I really wanted to keep this focused just on chess for people that are coming into this and just now learning the Inanian opening. Daniel says, I need better playmates. Yeah, like I was saying, the chess app doesn't let you determine who you actually play. So you'll play a wide range of people. Like, you can get some that are like really, really low compared to you, or, you know, higher compared to you, really high compared to you. It really depends. And by using these tactics and also practicing, like there's an app called, where is it? Chess Tactics Pro. They do daily chess tactics puzzles, and they also have a whole section of easy, medium, and hard puzzles that you can do. So that'll definitely help your game, as well as implementing the Inanian opening and those rules of chess. So that is pretty much it for Chess 101. Hopefully you will implement these things and get back to me and be like, wow, guess what? I was dominating these chumps, like having fun playing chess. And I look forward to hearing about that, and even seeing your games if you post them. So download the Chess Tactics Pro app, and also the Chess Online app. And you can play people all over the world and have a lot of fun. So anyways, I appreciate you guys joining me today, and hope that you have a wonderful day. I will be back here on Wednesday at 3:33. So hopefully you can join me then and let me know how the chess is going. So anyways, until then, I hope that you have a wonderful week. May God and the goddess bless you.